This is episode number 168 of the Smart Marketing Show, Digital versus Physical Marketing. You can help us out by checking out our sponsor, WordPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out at WordPress.com. And The Query. It's our new show on WPwatercooler. Go check it out at WPwatercooler.com/thequery. If you want to support us, you can definitely support us over on Patreon. We have some great folks that did that. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. I'm Jason Tucker. I'm an IT director. And you can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. This is my friend Bridget Miller. She's a founder and director and CEO. And we have Michelle Kiefer. She's a researcher strategist. My goodness, morning talking so hard.
Yeah, did you just call her
You just called her Bridget.
Who's Bridget? I don't know. Who's a Bridget? There's a Bridget? I don't remember there being a Bridget.
Bridget, but I am Jen Miller.
Bridget fill-in.
Yeah, let's just say that graphic didn't just magically appear there. Like, it takes a way to put it in there. Yeah, Bridget is what I say is on assignment. Okay. That's a great way of just saying she's not here. She's on assignment. How are you ladies doing this morning? If you're in the morning, I think most of you are still in the morning or very close to it. So how are you doing? Going good?
Yeah, doing great. Yeah, happy Friday.
I know, right? Friday is my recording day. It's like one show after another. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's good stuff. So today we're going to be talking about digital versus physical marketing. How should we start off with this? Like, I know what digital is. I know what physical is. But, like, what are the differences here? And what should we be even looking at in our current climate of, we're in places where we can't physically be near one another. But that physical thing is still something it's tangible, something you hold in your hands. How do you manage that?
Well, it's really interesting because physical marketing is most commonly related to events or swag, and so this year events kind of disappeared from being physical and turned into digital, and so swag's kind of the only other thing. But most people only think about swag as like promotional items that they have at their events. And so you kind of have this like gap in people understanding, how to do physical marketing, how to get those physical touch points in a time where we're not around each other. And so, it's an interesting time to talk about how we can kind of break down how we think about physical marketing and see how you can still have those personal touch points, even in a fully digital era like right now. But even post-COVID and post, new normal, when we all start to reintegrate into life, in physical life again, there's still some really solid concepts that you can carry over through that. In fact, 2020 I went to a presentation in like 2019, like the summer, and it was all of these big gurus from customer experience and experiential marketing. And they had all slated 2020 to be the year where we see physical marketing like make this big comeback. And then COVID happened, and it felt like it was even more of a reason for physical marketing to make a comeback. But now we're in August, and you haven't really seen it. You've seen everyone really grappling with like how to do digital better. And I don't know, it just seems like a good time for this chat.
Well, and a few months ago, Jason, Michelle and I were actually on the phone talking about ideas for my company because I'm rolling out a new podcast. And so we were talking about some ways to help promote that and get people on the show. And so we came up with a physical marketing idea that I'm in the process of implementing, but she's perfect at this because she can see it from all angles. Like she was saying, she went to that seminar or workshop in 2019 where she got some ideas, but also she's been doing marketing for years and years. And so she can find a way to kind of merge both worlds. So it's pretty awesome. We have a great speaker on today.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm so excited too to hear how everything comes out because I know it was so much such a new thing for you to do, like some type of physical marketing touch point. But I'm really excited to hear how it all turns out once it actually hits the mailboxes.
Exactly, right? So Jason, what I'm doing is a a boxed offering. You know how you can unbox things and it's like super fun. So
Yeah.
I'm doing something on that of one of my favorite things and sharing it to my clients and as a lead magnet even, but also to get people on the show to share their ideas. And because my company is very much about invisible marketing or digital marketing, you know, we create something and we have a product, but people don't necessarily attach us to it. And so having something physical, it will sort of ground that, I think. So it's kind of fun.
That's cool. Yeah, working in the IT space, a lot of the companies that I work with have huge marketing budgets, like monster-sized marketing budgets, which means usually their products are super expensive because, they're putting a lot of money in order to be able to like make that money. One in particular is a company called Verkada. And what Verkada did is they actually, those like double thick tumblers that they sell that are like, there's a whole bunch of different brands for them, but this one in particular, this company, they say that they're the largest purchaser of these tumblers, and they turn around and just give them away to their customers, which is crazy. Like I have 2 of them, and and it's crazy because they say go sign up, on our website for a demo. We'll do a free demo. It's like 30 minutes or whatever. They show you how the camera works or whatever, and then they send you this tumbler in the mail, and then they just berate you, man. They just hit you up. They're like, that tumbler was $50. Like, you better. And it's super interesting to see because it's like, and I've been to places where like, an IT, some company like Dell or HP or whatever, they'll buy you lunch and they'll buy like 30 people lunch and try to like wine you and dine you. There's plenty of ways to do it, to like tell people we're important, we're people you should be talking to. Here's here's a great way of kind of exchanging your time or exchanging your here's a pamphlet, but here's also like this tumbler for you to take a look at.
Yeah, I think that there's lots of different ways that you can do it. And so, Jen, what you just said really stuck out to me. It's like a way for someone to ground into your brand and like have that touch point. And I'm a big fan of what you're describing, where I'm sending like a gift for participating in a demo. I've even done things where if we find someone who's interacting with our brand a lot on like Twitter, we send them just something in the mail. I first got turned on to the idea of like physical marketing when I was working for a telecommunications reseller, and they would do handwritten notes during like certain points of the sales cycle. And during like the customer like anniversaries, milestones, and things like that. And so I was like, I know that everyone likes to get stuff in the mail, even if it is just like a card or a pack of stickers. I actually saw someone tweeting yesterday. They received like this huge pack of stickers, and it was, just extraordinary because it wasn't just this touch point that they received something and now they've attached to that brand more, but now they've taken it onto the back into the digital space to talk about the physical thing that they've gotten. And I think that's the biggest thing. The show today is called Digital versus Physical, but it's really about understanding how they work together to make both points stronger. It's not, it doesn't have to be an either or. And you even see that sometimes with like traditional marketing, when you talk to people in like print advertising or radio advertising, they're so anti-Facebook ads or they're so anti-social media marketing. And then you have people in social media marketing that like, you don't need to do print ads. Like it's antiquated. It's like, or direct mail, like try to talk to a digital marketer about why direct mail is important. And they're just like, their heads explode because we have somehow, we had traditional advertising and marketing, and then the technology boom and everyone got online and everyone became more and more digital. And so digital marketing just completely took over. And now it's all about SEO and pay-per-click and like all these things. And it's like we just left one for the other. And I think any of us, if we were to try to apply a concept like that to our personal lives or professional lives or business relationships, like just dropping one thing for another, like doesn't usually go very well. And so it's so interesting to me that as the entire marketing industry, we just like, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do this other thing instead. And then it just has snowballed, and now we're completely inundated in the digital space. We receive, so many messages a day, emails, we're on social media, we're just scrolling through feeds, we're just mindlessly consuming all of this digital media. And so to reintroduce a physical touch point into that, it grounds you. And it's like, here's something that's a little different, something I can physically touch. But also the thoughtfulness goes so much further. People are getting used to algorithms. We're getting used to automated email. When automated email first came out, like, people didn't know it was automated. They were just like, wow, these people are great. They're so on top of it, and they're communicating to me. But now we've had it for so long, we're like, oh, all this shit is automated, and no one actually is paying that close attention to me as a person. And so we're constantly having to shift back. And so to have something personalized, it can do more than just get someone's attention. It really shows someone that you're thoughtful and you cared about them. I'm working on a project right now with one of my clients, and it starts off with an email form where you have to opt in. We just want to check on you guys. COVID 2020, like, this year has been insane. How are you doing? And it's a quick survey with emojis, like, how are you doing personally and how are you doing professionally? And it's everywhere from like crying and heads exploding to just like, But then there's an opt-in, like, to where they would want to receive a gift, and physically a physical address where they would want to receive something. And then that's kind of surprising too, because you're not an incentive. Like, you're sending me a gift for what? It's like, oh, we're just sending you a gift because because we care about you. And so it's like, it really will jar someone and catch them off guard if they're not expecting it. And that goes for a well-placed, like, phone call or email or anything. If you're doing something that's going to, like, take someone off of the expected experience in a positive way, then you're going to have such a more lasting impression.
Yeah, our foreign correspondent Bridget says that marketing takes 7 to 10 touch points to make a sale, and that you're right, Michelle, that it doesn't have to be an either or. I think especially if you were going to write one of those cards, or if you were going to send off something that's going to, like, that emoji thing sounds great, because you're not asking them, like, how are you feeling today, with them having to write it sucks. They just go and say it sucks and then send in the thing, and now it's like, now you know that your customer base is either doing really well, or they're really great liars, or they're not doing so hot, and now you can figure out how you can customize what the next thing is that you're going to be sending them. And that's where that card might be a great idea, or something like that.
Yeah, and not having it just be another PDF to download that they may not ever look at, right?
Because white papers are great.
I know that when we did Women Who WP, like, it was a great concept, and everyone kind of joined together, and we were having meetups, and we were we were doing blog posts and speaking and having a great time with it. But until we had our WAPU, our little logo, as a sticker and on shirts, and it didn't really feel like a movement. And then once we got that WAPU, suddenly it just exploded, because it was something physical, tangible, that people could identify with. And we found her at WordCamp US on a big sign. I don't even know that, the people who were in charge of that marketing event realized that she was associated with Women Who WP. They just thought she was a cool icon and used her. And she was cool here too, and so it was super cool to see physical evidence of the intangible thoughts and ideas of this organization being displayed. I think we were even in the Huffington Post, because one of the automatic people who had been interviewed for remote work was wearing a shirt. And so it helped to kind of push along the organization. And that was a nonprofit, but in business, it's the same way. You hand out pictures, people put them on their computer, that gives you exposure.
Yeah.
So and the mug that Jason was talking about, and other tangibles. I know I have a speaker from, let's see, here, WordCamp Austin.
Everyone get your speaker gifts out, right? Everyone
that's right here.
Exactly.
Look at how quickly. Look at how quickly both of you grabbed a piece of swag.
Oh yeah, all over, right?
Yeah, all sorts of stuff.
Now, I mean, if you look at my screen, I've got my GoDaddy water bottle up there, the pink one, just because I love it. It says "Make your own way." It makes me feel good looking at it, so I don't even use it.
I'm drinking out of a server press cup. You know, come on. It's like,
we're at Camp Orange County right here. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think we actually buy stuff anymore. It's just all swag. I know, right? Come on, it's just what it is. Just real quick, so we can make sure that the folks that are watching see their names show up on the screen, because that's usually pretty awesome. Including greeting cards in their designs. Bridget's talking about sending thank you cards. That's awesome too. Rhonda would love it if they made a beaver from Beaver Builder. You know, like all sorts of stuff like that would just be, it's cool. It's a great way to tie all those pieces together.
Well, and I'm glad you pointed out the GoDaddy one, Jen, because you didn't keep it because it was from GoDaddy. You kept it because of what it said. It had a positive impact message that you can relate to. And that's another really cool thing that you can do with swag and physical touch points. You know, it's wonderful when you have a story like your WAPU or your logo or something that people get behind because they like the imagery, and then they can really resonate and share it. But it doesn't always work out that way. And and it's got to be more than just a logo on something, right? It's got to be, why did the brand care enough to create this piece? When I worked at Pressable, we had a lot of focus on like being a digital nomad, and there's so many people working remotely that we wanted to support. And so we did like hammocks and like picnic blankets and things like that, because it wasn't about just like having something from us. It was about having something that you could actually use, living out the brand culture that we're hoping to influence. And so you can really think, not just as who you are as a company and what your services are, but, we can really easily slide into a conversation about like persona marketing and like, who are the real people you're trying to work with? What do you guys have in common? What do you all like? There's a realtor in Fort Worth, Texas, that literally all they did was like food. They were like a food critic online, and then they would help solve real estate problems based on like where you wanted to live, based on what type of food you liked. And believe it or not, there's like, seems totally random and arbitrary, but there's apparently an enormous amount of people who choose where they want to live based on what's closest to the restaurants that they like. And so, you can find these things that you have in common and then create swag around that culture too. And then again, that goes back to just like the thoughtfulness of it and finding something that you're really going to resonate with your audience.
Well, you mentioned the restaurant and moving. So I just recently, a year ago, moved to Phoenix. And my favorite restaurant I discovered 7 years ago is here. And so when I was back in Huntington Beach, I used to say, if I'm going to move somewhere, I'm going to move closer to Barrio Cafe, because it was an awesome restaurant. And I did, and so it became one of my reasons for wanting to move.
That's so funny.
Isn't it?
And there's Dutch Bros too, which you got to have Dutch Bros if you're going to be in that area.
I am going to drink Dutch Bros. Isn't that funny? I don't drink coffee, so it makes sense.
Oh my goodness.
But Rhonda mentioned cards, so I got this card from someone, and the message in it says, "You're almost too awesome to be real." Like, how cool is that, right? And if companies sent that kind of thing out to their clients, people would hold on to them because it just makes you feel good.
Yeah. So. Well, and the physical experience, we're just going to remember, even if you think about like psychologically how your brain operates when it consumes something physical versus when it consumes something, digital. Bridget mentioned earlier, she said, 7 to 10 marketing touch points before you even get to a sell. But if you're relying exclusively on digital, that number in some cases, depending on what your industry or product or service might be, goes all the way up to 22 touch points before somebody actually feels like they are familiar with you and a point where they're ready to like start taking over more action-based decisions. And so even if you think about it, someone's going to, you want to you want someone to resonate with you as quickly as possible. And so front loading your sales tactics with a physical touch point, or really nurturing your audience or your existing customer bases for asking them for a referral or asking them to review you. Those are other things where, and then you reward them by a genuine thank you gift, or a thank you card or a thank you note or something to make those cycles shorter, because they stick more when you have that physical touch point inside of them.
Yes, I use FreshBooks for my accounting, and every time, and one of the main reasons I use them is because when we send out an invoice, once it's paid, then they're asked to review our company. And we've collected, I don't know, several hundred reviews easily that way. And usually after someone's paid, they feel that they've gotten value for the
paid for something.
And so all of those reviews have been positive, so it's been a great way to, not that we would have negative reviews, but it's been a great way to collect and sort of feel good, with our clients, because then we can follow up with a thank you so much. That was a great review. I really appreciate the fact that you took the time. And then they gush about the service and tell us more. And so it leads to more conversations and other products that they might be interested in.
Yeah. Well, and the re-engagement is a good tactic too. Anytime you can get a customer who's maybe moved on from consuming your product or service, like keeping that, it's hard to keep a relationship sometimes because it feels like, well, is this an authentic relationship, or are they just trying to like get me to buy from them again? Or are they actually genuinely concerned with how I'm doing since I have their product or service in place? And that goes back to the thoughtfulness of what those touch points are. We can't just like ask for a review, ask for a referral, ask for your repeat business, and ask and ask and ask, even if our product and service is offering them really valid, value and helping their brand grow. We're human beings, and we like gifts. We like being thought of. We like knowing that someone actually cares about us more than just a number. And so it's, sliding those in can be really great.
Yeah, I got one where the company hit me up and they were asking a bunch of questions, and one of the questions was really odd. It was like, "What's your shoe size?" And I'm like, "What?" Okay, sure. It's size 11. And then, no joke, around Christmas time, I got branded shoes from the company.
Awesome.
I was like, what? Like, you guys put your logo on the side of some Chuck Taylors and mailed them for me from a different country. Like, are you kidding me? How awesome is that? Really cool. Yeah. SiteGround did. It was just the coolest thing for them to like send something like that out. It's like, wow, I sent them some customers. They thought it'd be great to do something cool that, and send me some shoes. How cool is that?
That's really neat.
Well, also
asking for a size on the onboarding is a really great touch, though. We've done that before, asking for t-shirt sizes when you onboard.
Yeah, it's nice. Smart. Jen, you had something?
Oh, I just said SiteGround also is known for socks, right? So you wouldn't have expected that they were going to send you shoes. You were thinking maybe that they were going to send you socks. And so it's that little tiny bit of, oh, this isn't what I would have thought, that makes you, I think, appreciate it even more, because it's not just the everyday, what you're used to seeing it when you attend a conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what I really like to do, and it builds on what you just said, is I like to keep the framework of how do we surprise and delight our customers and surprise and delight our partners. And so when I think about, because I don't use like a traditional sales marketing funnel, I use an hourglass, because that's how you reach sustainable growth, because then it flips back to the top. So all the work you do bringing someone in, then you nurture them and then receive advocacy that refills your pipeline. And so every single piece of that, like from the very top of the funnel into the onboarding, into the customer nurturing, like where can we surprise and delight? And if you were to stop and look at that from that framework and say, where are these options, then you can get really procedural about it. And to ask this shoe size to a new partner coming on board because that this thing is going to happen. There's a lot to be said when you can be responsive, kind of like we're doing with the emoji, like status check, because we're responding to what currently exists in our work environments. But, having those underlying things that just that keep you moving forward is really fantastic. And actually there's a new software, it's called Sendosa, and I'm a huge fan. It's basically automated swag that you build into your marketing and sales processes. So just like you would automate like a trigger of send this email, it's send this gift. And you can put things in. So if a customer hits, a month after, or 6 months or a year, whatever's appropriate, then it's all integrated together with all the rest of your marketing and sales efforts. And we're just integrate those physical touch points into it. And so, I'm a big fan of that.
That sounds so cool.
It's really cool.
Can you dip a little more into that? Like how does that work, and how does that tie into the pieces that, people are watching right now would end up using for it?
Yeah. So, Sendosa is a fantastic tool. I actually enrolled as a partner with them because I believe in it so much, and because it fuses my love of sending out gifts to my love of automation and simplicity. And so, for example, if say you're using Salesforce or HubSpot, you get a new lead and you drop them in, you tag it and say, this is someone that I'm scheduling a coffee with. Well, guess what? We can't actually meet for coffee right now. So instead, I'm going to automatically send you a $10 gift card for coffee. So when we meet, that I've gestured of purchasing your coffee. And then say things go well, we go through the discovery, we look at budget and timeline and realize, okay, yes, we are actually a good fit. So in my Salesforce, I click and say, I move them from a prospect to an opportunity. Well, now they get another gift from us. It's like, we are so excited at the opportunity to work with you. Here's a little something that's reflective of our brand. And then when I go into Salesforce and say, hey, we won, we closed this opportunity, we send out our onboarding information, which may or may not include something, but now it's ticking. And after 6 months, Sendosa knows like they've been a customer for 6 months. So now here's our re-engagement. So just like you would go through and map out and plan like an email automation flow, you go in and you map out and plan like these physical touch points as well. And Sendosa helps you automate it. And so, and then you can go in and add, personalized tweaks and notifications. So for example, you don't want just like a coffee mug to go, but you want a personalized coffee mug. And so you have personalized coffee mugs all loaded up, but then a week before it's meant to go out, you get a notification that says, hey, it's time to personalize that coffee mug that's going out. And now I can put something like, I met Jen and I know she's really bubbly and really, focused on living a happy, positive life. So I'm going to give her this really good feel-good quote on her coffee mug. There you go. But nice. Jason, he's really into Star Wars and like a little bit, cult culture humor. So I'm going to put together this super clever pun on his coffee mug, and then he gets that one. And so even though it's an automated touch point that you can expect, there's still an opportunity for you to personalize it based on the relationship you're building with that client.
How cool is that?
So cool. Yeah, and I love to help people think about these things. I worked for a home builder once, and that one was super fun because they got to like it. We did all these, swag touch points, throughout the whole sales cycle. But there was nothing better than these like beautiful gift baskets that we made for the new homeowners. So as soon as they walked into the house, it had, champagne and glasses for some families, but other families, we didn't do the alcohol based on what we learned about them. But there was like everything you would need for your first night: paper plates, paper towels, a Domino's gift card for $50 to order your pizza while you're moving in. Like, then they would go upstairs and have like find another little surprise in their bathroom where we had like these like crystal soap dishes set up for them. And then they were embossed with our brand, but they were beautiful and our logo was on it, but it didn't take away from the beauty of what the item was. And so they've kept it. And then they would go and find a pepper grinder inside of their kitchen. So as they explored their house, they were just over and over and over just validated that they're in the right house, they love being there, and that we care that they're in our home too. And we almost always got like 5-star reviews on everything. We became the top producing division in the entire country. We had the best reviews from builders and homeowner reviews out of any other division in the country. And it was because our home buyers knew that once we sold them our house, we weren't done with them. And that really makes a big difference.
Right.
That's cool, because that's like the first time that you have a very unique opportunity to be in someone's home before they even get to be in someone's home. Yeah, like, I mean, when else can you do that? It's not like Domino's could show up and be like, hey, we just dropped some pizza off. Like, right? But the idea that you're able to do that because you haven't handed the keys over yet. Now you're handing the keys over and you're like, ta-da! How cool is that?
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, and it's the same thing when you're providing a service to someone, even if it's a digital service, like you're about to give them their website or something. Like there are ways that you can sneak in like extra little surprises for them, and digital and physical ways. And so again, it's not an either or. How can we blend it? You can take this tactic of surprise and delight and, pour it into a swag strategy. But you can also pour it into your digital services as well. And just making those personalized touch point. And I think right now, especially, everyone is so we're just inundated in the digital. We're completely immersed in it now. Like my kids just became digital nomads. Like they're not even going back to a brick and mortar school. Like they're here working remotely with me now forever. Or at least for the rest of this year, maybe next year, right? It seems like forever.
One day.
Your kids get a swag bag for working from home now, and they have the company logo and all this stuff on all those shirts and everything.
Well, yeah. I just got back from vacation and I stayed in a Marriott, and I always stay in Marriotts. Jason knows that about me. They had those same types of touch points that you were talking about with that new home builder where, I show up and they offer to upgrade, which, is always nice. And then, so you go to your room and then you turn on the TV and it says, welcome, Jennifer Miller. We're so grateful you're staying here with us, and to just have those little tiny personal touches, you say like at the Ritz-Carlton, there's a welcome gift that's huge and amazing. And, there's all kinds of fun things that can happen when you have allegiance with a company like that, because they do remember you. And so it's fun for the person who is experiencing it. But I think it's like, Michelle, you're showing us, from the marketer's standpoint, it's fun being the marketer and thinking of how can we surprise them. Yeah. And when those surprises happen, it just makes that brand loyalty even more tight.
And that's really all we have anymore. We can talk about engagement, we can talk about reach, and we can talk about all of these things. But ultimately, we have got to get our brands to stick to us, or our customers to stick to our brand. And if we cannot do that, then you're going to be constantly chasing the dragon and feeding the dragon, just chasing it and feeding more advertising dollars, more ideas, more churn on, let's use this tool, no that tool, no this tool, no that tool. Like you're just constantly churning until you can crack the nut of what does it take for people to actually want to stay with my brand and refer my brand to other people. So they take on the burden of growing my business through their advocacy than us constantly having to fill up the top of the pipeline again. But I do want to take a moment to kind of flip this on the head of what does swag look like gone wrong? And I have a couple of stories of when swag doesn't get the desired effect. And it goes to show the thoughtlessness behind the swag. So the first thing you see with like high, like luxury like dental like things like that. Like if you go to a really expensive dentist versus like your regular dentist, they're going to, what's commonly seen with these expensive dentists is that they're going to give you like a welcome gift. Like, oh, you're a new patient. Here's your welcome gift. And also here's your bill for your service. Right. And so you're getting this like $6,000 bill and it's like a cheap, chinky tumbler. That's not even a nice tumbler. And so it's like, I get what you're trying to do here. You're trying to make me like you, but you are presenting me a bill with a gift, and my gift is super cheap compared to the bill that I'm receiving. And so you have to make sure that what swag items you're picking, match your price points. That's really important. You don't want to look like you're cheap, because then you're going to get the opposite reaction. And instead of your new client or customer feeling valued, they're going to feel like really used. Like, oh, okay.
Like that customer should have got a $300 water pick or something like that, where it's like $300. It's only $300. They just spent 10 grand on you. $300, nothing. Just throw it at them, and you're good.
Which makes a good argument for why you have tiered swag also. And so you can have like your basic swag that kind of everybody gets, but once your client reaches a certain spend level with you, you got to up what they're getting. And also even having tiered swag for your partners. You don't want to be sending your partners the same things that you're sending your clients, because again, it's got to be thoughtful. So the idea of like, I'm just going to go online and find this tumbler and I'm going to buy 10,000 of them because that's the cheapest way for me to get a good price per item. And then I'm just going to send it out for everyone for everything. Like, save yourself the money and don't even do it. Don't even try. If that's going to be your approach, don't do it. Don't do it.
Right.
The other idea, or the other story I had, kind of swag horror story, is really personal story. So it was when I was having my youngest daughter, and there was an issue with how I had registered for the hospital, like do all the things you do, gone to the doctor that morning. My doctor's like, all right, it's time, go have this baby. We're calling them over there. And when we got over there to check in, there was an issue where they're like, well, you haven't paid your deductible yet, so you can't come in to have your baby. You have to go to the emergency room. And we're like, you have all of my insurance. You have everything. Like, I'm about to have this baby. And it was a nightmare. The lady ended up getting fired, like, after the fact. I spent like an hour in the parking lot in labor in my car because they would not let me into this hospital. Once my husband like got in touch with some admin person. Anyway, it was a disaster. Finally get in, had my daughter like within minutes of me getting into the room. So much for having like this peaceful like birthing plan. And then they brought in a little yellow bear that said, "We're very sorry." And so I was just shook. I was like, how many people are you messing up with that you have a closet full of bears that say we're very sorry? Like, are you planning on providing bad service here that you have an "I'm very sorry" gift for me? Like, I wanted to set the thing on fire. So frustrated. So again, if you're trying to think through things and say like, look, we know we're going to make mistakes and we want to be able to have a way to touch point on that when we do make mistakes, make sure that what you're offering matches the level of mistake that you're getting. Like if you're a hosting company and, there's no such thing as 100% uptime guarantee. And if, you have a blip or someone's site goes down and you want to send them like, we're real sorry, like we promise this isn't normal. Like that's complete, that's reasonable. But make, what you're going to send them is going to be related to like, oh, your site was down for a couple of hours while we had to reboot a server. So you can still think about those types of things. It's not a bad thing to be ready to admit that you're wrong. But again, think, how wrong are you? And does that match the "I'm sorry" gift? And so really it all just comes down to how thoughtful are you being when you're selecting your swag. You can't, if you're just trying to bulk order something at mass, then you're going after it all wrong, and you should save yourself the money and go hire a Facebook consultant and waste your money that way.
Yeah, if your e-commerce site goes down and you're literally you spend $1,000 in hosting, and then you're making say $10,000 a day, $20,000 a day on your site, and then you get "I'm very sorry" from them, that would suck. I would be. Yeah. I would be very upset. Unless
he's wearing like a gold chain with like here's like your next 3 months of hosting on us, right? Like.
Right. Oh my goodness.
But I just couldn't believe it. So there's so swag is not always fun in games. It's fun. It can be, but it ultimately comes back to how thoughtful and deliberate you're being and how you're designing out when someone receives something, why they receive it, and does what they're matching or the reason why they're receiving something match what you're giving them. So those are just kind of like some rules of thumb.
Yeah, I remember when Autrey, my daughter, and I were in Barcelona, and we stayed in a Marriott, right? And we had the little message on the TV, but as soon as we walked in the room, someone had just shown up and laid out tapas. And so we walked in, and it was like, oh, this is
like awesome. In the pool through your window, or like on your bed waiting for you?
Oh, no. We had a 2-bedroom suite with a double like lover shower and a 7-foot tub. Like, it was an amazing room. And so when we walked in the living room area, on the table was this food. And we were starving because we'd just flown in and gotten a cab, and so we were just like beside ourselves and just so excited, and ate. And I think it's because they had to, like, it took a few minutes for them to get our room ready. So we just were hanging out in the lobby, and then they called us back and we went up. And so Audrey and I were like, wow, they knew we were coming. Like, we were so impressed. So we ran down back to the lobby to go get something and say thank you, right? When we came back to our room, the tray had been cleared, and in its place were sparkling water bottles and a CD of flamenco music. And we were like, oh, there was every time. So we started testing it. Every time we walked out the door, somebody would put something in the room. It was the craziest, but we were only there like 2 nights, but it was the craziest hotel experience, because every time we left, something would happen. When we went to go eat dinner, something was comped. Like, it solidified my relationship with Marriott. Good grief. Well, other than the Ritz, because they did something really nice once too. But I had not realized how tied in I could get to a brand until I had experience. And then, like, if I ever go back to Barcelona, there's nowhere else I would think to stay. And
right.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, they're expecting.
And the cost of their time of sending someone in to refresh the room, the cost of having those items prepared for you or those little touches for you, and the long term are so outweighed, because you're on a LinkedIn thing, right? Or on a live stream right now talking about the Marriott. Like, there's the long tail goodness of them making sure that you had an exquisitely exceptional, happy, surprising experience. Just continues to give and to give and to give. And so if you're having trouble, like, justifying the cost of a swag strategy or something like that, you really have to think about it. It's not like ROI. It's not you're going to put $100 in and get $1,000 out. It's an investment that you're making and if you're not willing to invest in your customers being loyal to you, there's no way in hell they're going to invest in being loyal to you back. Like, they're not going to do it on their own. You have to ask for it, and you have to show them why you're worth that loyalty. And so I'm impressed by Marriott through this conversation. So,
well, and you should ask me more, because there's so much more. But so, like, that's for vacations, for business travel, like, they're my go-to. Some areas they're not in, I have to do something else. But most of the time, I end up in one of their either true hotels or affiliate
brands.
Yeah. And it's because I've come to expect a great experience. And I mean, on our vacation this last week, because of COVID, there's all these like weird things that hotels are doing. Mm-hmm. But the hotel I was at, I talked to them before I arrived and before I made the reservation. I said, I just want to know, I know you have a swimming pool and a jacuzzi. I'd like to make use of that. What is your policy during COVID? And they said, well, if you would like to reserve it, we can give you a 2-hour block. Just let us know so that we can sanitize it before and after, and we'll allow you that. And that was awesome, because not only did we get use of the pool and jacuzzi, but we were the only ones in it. Like, we had a party, like we were fun. It was so much fun. And we invited our friends. We could have up to 11 people. And, it was just, but had I not had that relationship with them, that has been,
you wouldn't have even asked. You wouldn't have even known to ask.
I wouldn't have even thought of it. And I'll tell you, I think we were the only ones in the hotel who were using that pool all week, and the fitness center, because I knew to ask. And that's what happens when you start to get connected to the brands. My hosting company, I would ask them for things that I wouldn't necessarily ask a different hosting company, you know, just because I know what my level of expectation has been set. So,
yeah.
Let's transition into the next little quick segment of the show, which is our tour tip of the week. Our tour tip of the week is brought to you by The Query. The Query is a new show that we're doing on WPwatercooler Network, where you ask a question and Jason Cosper answers it. How cool is that? You just send in a question, go over to the website, WPwatercooler.com/thequery. You ask a question, and then we're going to be collecting those questions and getting them together, and then Jason Cosper is going to answer them for you on the show. So go take a look at that, WPwatercooler.com/thequery. So, Jen, you know, I hate to throw this on you, but you're going to be the first person that needs to speak about your tour tip of the week. I typically end them, so hopefully you have something prepared. If you don't, I'm going to give you a couple seconds here to come up with something while I sit here and ramble.
I'm good. Michelle, Jason, I think both of you know this. I've been working on a master's program for school, and I'm also in the process of writing another book. And so I have been using a recording app that does automatic transcription. And it's super, super cool. And it's like perfect. Okay. And it's just called Voice Recorder on my phone. But I just wanted to encourage people, as you're trying to get these projects done, especially things that are very text heavy, like one of my papers was 35 pages, you know? And so being able to dictate it to my phone and then have the transcription there and just copy and paste it into my doc was amazing, because it shortcutted the time. I mean, I'm a fast typer, but it allowed me to just sort of have thoughts, and then I could just go back and edit. And so, Jason, I know you use lots of tools with transcription. We've talked about tons of them, but this one, it says Tap Me Pro is the membership. It's like $1.99 a month or something. But super, super cool, easy app on my phone to be able to get things done, be a little more productive. So I wanted to share that.
I love tools like that, especially when the thing actually does more than what the built-in, you know, dictation system actually does, where it's going to take a couple of seconds and go like, oh, he's talking about this in this context. Oh, this is how this is being structured. You know, I'm not the greatest writer. I'm definitely not the best public speaker. And so when I go and start yelling at Siri to have her do stuff, things go all sorts of wrong. And Jen Miller knows it, because she has to try to translate what it is I'm saying to her when I'm just in my car driving someplace and I'm just essentially yelling at the lady in the phone here. And it's rough. So it's cool if it's giving you good results. That's great. And if you take some extra time to actually like structure your sentences in a way that it's not going to like mess something up, then that's good too.
Okay. Oh, and you know what? There's another one I'm going to share just because you let me go first. And so the time for me. So during COVID, you know how I am. I like to do things, right? I'm not really somebody who sits for very long. And I have been having a really hard struggle not going out and experiencing and traveling and like doing more with my life right now. And so I decided, I have a whole bunch of instruments that I got from my grandfather, and one of them is a banjo mandolin. And so I decided I'm going to take mandolin lessons. I'm going to learn how to play this. And I've been taking lessons through an online company that does remote learning. And the app is called Take Lessons. And so that's where I do all my scheduling of my lessons and everything. And my instructor's Grant. And it's been amazing because I'm learning how to play the mandolin. And it's fun. And then I had never played a fretted instrument, and so that led to me discovering guitar tune-up, which if you are a musician, and you probably know about this, but if you've never done like a fretted instrument, so each string has to be tuned individually. That'll show you if you're high or low, flat or sharp. And it's been so cool. So those are my things that I've been discovering in the last couple weeks.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Michelle, what do you got?
I forgot about the tooltip.
Tools that she talked about.
I know.
I'm
like, I've already talked about the tools, so we can review and we can talk about Sendosa.
You got 5 minutes. You got 5 minutes. Have at it. What do you got? What's something that's interesting that you've been looking at? You got some YouTube channel you've been watching. I watch tons of YouTube channels just about people that are having to do what you're thinking about doing. That's
all I've been watching is the bus. My whole life, if I'm not thinking about marketing right now, I'm thinking about schoolie conversion. And so
and school buses. Yeah, talk about that. Yeah. That's a house living thing.
Yeah. So, I'll have to give it up for Instagram. They've definitely helped. We spent the last 2 years researching everything that can go wrong or will go wrong with, having a bus as a tiny home. And it's definitely, it's extraordinary to be able to, do something as simple as follow a hashtag called schoolie conversion and see people all over the world that are successfully doing this and learning about the products that they're using, and what they've, learned about living full time in a bus, to the point where we were able to really shape our plan. So we'll have 2 tiny homes. We'll have a permanent home-based tiny home where the bus will be parked, and then we kind of live between all of the space while we're settled, where we can get into the bus and go, without ever being on the bus for more than, a month or month and a half at a time before we're back at our home base. And I'm just incredibly grateful for all of the people who have done it wrong already and told me about it, so I don't have to make the same mistakes they are. So, crowdsourcing in general is probably my favorite tool. And don't be afraid to ask strangers questions, would be the tip to go along with that tool, I guess.
I love it. Thank you for that. I've been watching a lot of YouTubers who essentially were traveling the world, and now they can't travel the world. So they're like, we still need to make content. We still pay our bills doing this sort of thing. So what do we do to make this happen? And I'll definitely share with you some of the different YouTubers that have been doing that. And some of them are doing it very wrong. And some of them are doing it very right. And some of them are just kind of
just flailing.
Content's content. Whatever happens. And if we crash this thing, I get it. And if it burns up because I don't know how to do electricity, it is what it is. And you're just like, oh wow,
that's a video that would get a lot of likes. Let me accidentally set my bus on fire when I click the switch up. That's advertising gold right there.
When I was in college, for a month, my car was in the shop, drove something. I don't even remember what the brand of the car was, but it had this button, and when you push the button, suddenly the passenger seat jumped up 4 inches. It was like an eject button. And we found out about it accidentally while turning a curve on a freeway. It was great. So,
oh my goodness.
That's so funny.
So I'll share with you my tour tip of the week. So I've been, as everyone has been, stuck in meetings and dealing with Zoom meetings and dealing with, I don't know. I've been on Citrix ones. I've been on Zoom ones. I've been on meetings like this, all sorts of stuff. And I've been trying to find a way that I don't have to log into 900 different email accounts to be able to pull in those meetings or find where they're at in which, because I run my life via these various different email addresses. So if we're doing WPwatercooler, I have a WPwatercooler email address, and it has its own Google Calendar and has all of its own Google everything. And each of these different things that I do through my life, be it one company or another, I have a different email address for. Well, those are different email accounts I have to log into, and it's insane. So I started looking at this particular product called Meter, and it's MEETER, and it's available for the Mac as well as for the iPhone. and I have no idea about Android, but there may be something similar to it. But what's great about this thing is, at least on the Mac, is it lives up in the menu bar, which the menu bar is kind of sacred to me, and I delete a lot of apps that throw themselves into the menu bar if I can't remove them. But this one has a great place in my menu bar, and what it does is I click on it. It gives me a list of all the different meetings that are coming up for me. And I click on that meeting, and guess what it does? It links to the meeting URL for you. And you get to pick which web browser. So if you're the kind of person like me where I use Chrome for one thing and I use Safari for another and I use whatever, you can tell it, open up the meeting in this browser. And then it opens up the meeting in that browser.
That's so
which is
cool.
great. Yeah, it's awesome. And what else is, because all this stuff is kind of so wrapped up, in my life right now, is it'll even show you like in 2 days and 8 hours, your next meeting is this. And you click on it and it shows you like that meeting that's coming up with the list of all the other meetings that are coming up. So instead of having to open up your calendar and then you're in like this like weird calendar mode where you're now trying to like, kind of mess with your calendar, you don't have to do that. You just click on it, get a list of all the online meetings that are coming up, and you're good to go. So take a look at that. The price for it is free to download. They do in-purchase in-app pricing. If you wanted to get the pro version, right now it's $3.99. $3.99 is nothing when I don't have to think about opening my calendar. So, go take a look at it, see if it's something that will work for you. And if it's not something that works for you, let me know, because I love trying these things out, and I'll try all of them twice. So let me know.
That's a good share.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up. How about that? So, thank you very much, Michelle, for coming and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We've had a couple weeks where I've been very, very busy at work, and I've had tons of stuff happen. And but both you and one of our other guests have been very gracious and willing to come back, even though you knew that I just couldn't make it happen. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
No problem. We've all got to be willing to ebb and flow with one another. Life's always going to come up on, if it's not you, it's going to happen to me or Jen or Bridget or whomever else. We've got to show ourselves grace and each other grace. So I'm happy to be here for sure.
Thank you very much, Jen. Again, as always, it's always good hanging out with you. And, we talk a lot via text message, so it's really cool to be able to have you in person in a way on the internet, and we can kind of hang out and talk. So
it's always fun to see your face.
Exactly. All right. Well, here's our outro. I want to say thank you for everybody watching. I really appreciate it. Here we go. If you want to support us over on Patreon, go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. And here's the fine folks that have helped us out so far. We really appreciate that. If you like, hit the subscribe button, click the little bell. We'd appreciate it. That's going to notify you when we go live next. And if you don't want to listen to us live, you don't want to watch us live, we totally understand. You can listen to us as a podcast. Go over to any of the local places that are here. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify. We're everywhere, so feel free to go take a look at that. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much for helping us out and joining us. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.